By Jove, I think I've done it. I've found the cure for COVID-19. It's a good old-fashioned Oklahoma breakfast right here in Colorado. Well, it may not be the cure, but it sure will be good.
Hey Daddy, what's for supper?
Well, tonight we're going to have a traditional Wilkerson breakfast featuring patty sausage, hash browns and onions, biscuits and gravy, and fried eggs. You know, there are always differing opinions on the perfect breakfast, even within our family unit here. But for me, biscuits and gravy are a must. We are doing our part and enjoying doing our part to help slow or even stop the spread of the coronavirus. I hope that you're doing your part too. You should stay home, don't gather in groups of more than 10 people, wash your hands, and you should use the Alton Brown method, which I will put a link to down in the description. And if you do have to venture out to go to work or to the store, be sure to be kind and patient with our neighbors who are taking care of us during this time. The grocery and the food workers, the health and emergency workers, the delivery people and the waste control people, and so many more. And all those who are unable to stay home. And for all of our heroes during this crisis, I offer first thing we're going to need to do is take our sausage chub and slice it into thicknesses of about somewhere between a ½ inch and an inch, about like this. Now wash those sausagey hands. What I've got here actually is what is this called? A Dutch oven, a cast iron Dutch oven. And I'm going to cook my sausage in here, and I want to be able to keep as much of the grease as possible. We're going to keep that for making gravy. So I'm going to turn on our heat to relatively high and cook up these sausage patties. Get them brown and cooked through. You don't want any pink in the middle. Once your sausage is cooked thoroughly, make sure that it is draining on a paper plate, on paper towels on a plate. You can set the sausage aside in a safe place to keep it away from your dogs. And then the real magic is going to happen. With all this leftover grease, or drippings we could call them, this and all the stuff that's on the bottom, we're going to create a roux, which is going to be the base of our gravy, of our sauce. So I can't wait to show you how to do that. Alright, now the secret to making a good gravy is to make a good roux. Roux is a paste that you make that is made from the leftover grease of your breakfast meat, whatever it is. Bacon makes really good roux, but this is sausage grease right here, chub sausage. And what you have to do, now I don't know how much I've got here. This is the grease from 4 pounds of sausage. And so what you're going to do is just add flour until you get the right consistency. And that's just one of those things that I have figured out over the years. And so let's see what it's going to look like. We'll just keep adding a little bit. Now, this is a cup measuring spoon, so I'm probably adding a half a cup there. Now I'm going to stir it in and see how it looks, but you want it to turn into kind of a paste, but it can't be too dry, but it shouldn't be too wet either. Like this is too wet to be a good roux. And so you just have to be really kind of careful. Now I'm hoping that all the good bits on the bottom are going to get scraped up as I make the roux here. And I'll show you some things to look for as you're creating your roux. Now I've got the heat on the grease here to a medium high. Because I want to cook the flour. I don't want a raw flour taste. And you want to scrape the bottom to get all that goodness. And that's why it's nice to use cast iron, because it doesn't matter if you do that. But if you're going to use non-stick, then just be sure to use a non-stick friendly spatula or utensil. Again, like I said, I kind of have an idea of where to go here, and I'm trying to consistently err on the side of keeping it too wet until I get close. Because once it gets to be too dry, it's hard to come back from that. So I'm just adding bits of flour until I feel like I've got it to the right consistency. And you see how that's still pretty wet. But that will cook that flour. Give it a chance to cook. You want to, once you get all the flour in there and you get the right consistency for your roux, you want to be sure to cook it for 30 seconds to a minute at least, just to get that raw flour flavor out of it. Alright, let's add in some more. You can see, kind of have an idea of how much flour I'm adding into this. But I think the rule of thumb is about for every ooh, look, we're getting close here. Yeah, we're getting close to the proper roux consistency here. I just wish that the sausage stuff drippings would get, oh yeah, this is turning nice. Just a little bit, oh, look at that. What you want is when you draw your utensil through it, it's kind of like parting the Red Sea here. Just kind of parts, and you can see the bottom. So we're really just about there. I'm probably going to add just a little bit more flour. But, see, this sausage created so much stuff at the bottom that I'm really having to scrape to get it all off of there. Alright, I'm going to turn down that heat. Get a little bit more flour. So I don't want to get too dry. Okay. We are so almost there. Oh, yeah, this is going to be good. You see that consistency there? You can kind of see bubbles coming up through it. It's just one of those things that you get, over time. You mess up batches, and some batches of gravy you'll get that'll be really good. And so you just kind of learn what your roux should look like. And this is just something I've picked up from experience, from watching my mom do it. My mom makes some really good gravy, and I remember my great-grandmother, Grandma Root Mallory, she she made excellent, excellent biscuits and gravy. But you'll notice I'm just kind of erring on the side of keeping it too wet. I think just a little bit more and we'll be there. Let's turn the fire off of this. Okay, that was the potatoes. Alright, so we are, oh yeah, this is going to be, boy, sometimes I make a good gravy, sometimes I don't, but I think this is going to be a good one. Look at that roux. Yeah, this is good. This is what it should look like. See how it still comes back. Still comes back. Ooh, yeah, we're getting smoke coming out of the oven from from the biscuits. Okay, well, we just had kind of a little bit of a happy accident because the biscuits were smoking in the oven, and man, was it billowing. So we had to open the doors and the windows, and here it is, 11 o'clock at night. And but at least our smoke alarms didn't go off. But I don't know, you might still be able to tell that it's still smoky in here. Watch it come out of the... No, you don't have to move it. Okay, here we go. The basic recipe for a white gravy like this one, and you call, white gravy like this a bechamel sauce, or you can. And a bechamel sauce is basically just 2 tablespoons of fat, like butter, 2 tablespoons of flour, and you add to that 1 cup of milk. So I call that a 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 to 2 to 1, 2 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons to 1 cup. And now I don't know what my measurements were here. How much grease I had from the sausage and how much flour I had to add to that. But, it's just something that I've learned to do this. I've learned to do it by eyeballing it or estimating it. So what I'm going to do here now is pour in some milk that we made from dry milk, because there wasn't any milk at the store at this point. And after I stir that in, I'm going to add some more regular milk that we had out in our fridge. So, but once you pour in this milk, you have to start stirring or whisking. A lot of people like to use a whisk. For me, I like the control of a spatula better because you can scrape the bottom of your pan better. A whisk allows you to mix it better, I guess. But I just like being able to feel the gravy, and that's just one of those things that I can do. As I'm scraping the bottom, I can feel how it's coming together and how it's working. But once you pour that milk in, you have to keep stirring or scraping or whisking until it is done. You don't want to stop because you don't want it, you don't want it to scorch, for one thing, but you want that milk to get incorporated and to be able to soak into all of the flour proteins. And once it does, it's going to start to thicken really quickly. It happens, within a matter of seconds it'll happen. And you don't want it to get over thick. And you'll see here in a minute what happens if it does. But so you got to be ready for it. So don't stop stirring or scraping. You want to scrape the bottom of the pan with your utensil because it helps mix it, and you can actually feel the gravy coming together. Now the grease has coated the flour proteins, and now the milk will hydrate the flour. And once that happens, when it's mixed with this heat, boom, it thickens, and it thickens fast. So just be ready for it. All right, so let's watch and see what happens here. Okay, now start watching close here because it's starting to thicken. And so once it starts to thicken, it happens really quick. So it's thickening now and it's happening fast. You can kind of see as your spatula gets pushed through there, it's starting to make a little an indentation in the gravy. It doesn't bounce through it like it's a liquid anymore. It's a lot thicker. So what you got to do is just, lower. Once it starts, you probably want to lower the heat like I just did. And now watch, see how it coats your spatula or a spoon. Ooh, be careful because I just threw it out of the pan there. But, in fact, this is probably getting to be a little too thick. So I need to get it off of that fire because it's going to do nothing but keep thickening, and then it's going to burn, so you got to be careful. But once it has gotten to this point, that's as thick as you want it. And this is really a bit too thick, so here you'll watch in just a moment. I'm going to add some more milk. You'll see like a bit of a clump of gravy almost at the end of the spoon here. Looky right there. You see it? How it's stuck to the spatula? Because that's just as you're scraping the bottom, it got stuck on the spatula. So I'm going to add, some more milk. And you can do this when it's still hot. Okay, you can add some more milk and get that incorporated in there. A whisk would probably be even better at this point, but, my spatula works. But, once it cools down, it's not going to work as good, okay? So, but right now, you can see it's incorporating in there. And in fact, it's still kind of thick, so I'm going to have to add a little bit more milk. But, that's going to be good. So I think you'll enjoy that. All right, well, I am chopping up about 8 onions of various size, and we are going to add these to the potatoes in just a minute, the hash browns, and that will make it a lot more flavorful. We've also already added, in fact, let's go ahead and come right over here. We've already added about a half a cup of oil to, how many potatoes was this? About 8 pounds of potatoes. So we're doing about an onion per pound. So I'll get these put in there. And about a half a cup, we'll probably end up putting a little more oil in there. But then we'll fry those up too.
Alright, so we're going to try and stir this without making too much of a mess. We're going to turn on the heat at about medium-high. And we're going to try to get the oil covering everything as best as we can. But the goal is to let it cook on one side and then flip it to let it brown on either side. but because we have this large batch, it's probably not going to be very crispy. Alright, tonight we are going to be making the biscuits for our biscuits and gravy. And as you can see, we've covered our table in plastic because we Sharpied it and it kind of bleeds a little bit. But you might be thinking, why are we making biscuits from scratch? Well, when you could be just getting them from the store. Well, have you been to the store lately? So, because there is a shortage of things that you would like to have, such as pre-made biscuits, and this is, well, I won't say it's easy, but it's fun, we're going to make biscuits from scratch. And what you need to do that, the ingredients are flour, which we have 8 cups of flour. We're going to make a lot of biscuits. We have 5.5 tablespoons of sugar. We have 4 tablespoons of baking powder. We have 4 teaspoons of salt, 3 cups of milk, and 24 tablespoons of butter. Because you definitely have, well, you do actually have 4 pounds of butter in your freezer, don't you? But that's what you're going to need. And we've got some extra flour for dusting the table. Alright, so first we're going to mix in our dry ingredients together, which is our 5.5, well, you already know what it is, sugar, and our baking powder, and our salt. Now you want to get this all mixed in first, because you want to mix everything else in with it as little as possible. Otherwise you're not going to have a very fluffy biscuit. So as soon as that's reasonably mixed, we can move on to everything else. Alright, now we're going to add in our butter, which you will notice it's been grated, which we did ahead of time. Half of it we did grating, and the other half we just dumped in the food processor. But you want to have it in small chunks, because, well, it just makes biscuits better, don't ask why. So we're going to try to get it out of the bowl. It's kind of frozen because we put it back in the freezer. You get nice and cold. And it's kind of clumped together, but they're in small clumps, so they'll break apart. So we're going to mix that together before we add in the milk. Of milk. So now that we've gotten our butter roughly incorporated, and it kind of looks like, it's supposed to look like wet sand, but really there's just chunks of butter laying around. Well, cubes of butter, little tiny things of butter. Now we're going to pour in our milk, which if you don't have, hopefully you have lots of dry milk like we do, because we ran out of milk. So we're going to make a well, and we're going to pour in our 3 cups of milk. And you want to gently stir this together because you don't want to overwork it. You don't want to get the ingredients warm because you won't get a fluffy biscuit. So while the recipe said 3 cups, I think I must have edited it at some point and forgot to up the milk. So this really looks almost about right because it's going to be pretty dry. But we do need a little bit more, so I'm going to add probably about another cup here. We're just about ready to dump this out anyway. Alright. Now once your dough looks like a glop of things that aren't really mixed together, if you can see clumps of butter still, you're good. You don't want to overmix it. And my hands are clean. Wash your hands. But since my hands are clean and this is separate flour, I'm going to go ahead and flour our beautiful work surface here. And you want to do that generously because the dough is pretty sticky. So I'm probably adding a lot. We'll just go with a lot. And we're going to take all of this, and we're actually going to do it in two because this is such a big batch. Blech. And it's going to stick really bad. We're going to try and take about half of this dough. Blech. Blech. About like that. And it's going to be a nightmare to get off. But we're going to work some more flour into it until it's not quite so sticky. Oh, need more flour. I added too much more milk. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So what you want to start to do is you're just going to have this giant blob. But you're going to fold it over on itself and press it just a little bit. You don't want your warm hands to melt the butter. And then you're going to turn it as best as you can. It's going to crumble a lot. And turn it onto itself. And this is going to make layers of our wonderful fluffy biscuits. And you're just going to do that about 5 or 6 times. So we've done it 3 times. Well, there goes the plastic wrap. 1, 2, 3. Lift it up. 4. 5. That's probably about right. I'm gonna go get this extra clump off my hands. And then now I can come back. Okay. Now that we've worked and turned and made layers in our dough, it's time to flatten it out and cut our biscuits. So we're going to use our hands and not a rolling pin because, well, it seems counterintuitive because you don't want your warm hands to warm up the dough too much, but just use the tips of your fingers. And we're going to try and make this about 1 inch thick, and we can use our little cutter here to figure out just about how thick we want this to be. That's going to be a buttery biscuit. That's about right. Okay, still rolling? Alright, so we're going to take our biscuit cutter so it doesn't get too sticky, and we're just going to kind of get some flour on it. Most of it's going to fall off, but it should be enough to help us get clean biscuits. So this biscuit cutter's 2 3/4 of an inch circle, and that's just a good biscuit size. You can really make it whatever size you want. We're going to try to cut as close to the edge as possible and hope that it doesn't stick to the table. And put it on our tray. Now these will rise a lot, but they don't expand a lot, so you can put it pretty close to the edge. Unless you've got a giant chunk of butter, then you might want to scoot it over a little. So if you have large chunks of end pieces like this one here, or right here, and you rip it off, you know, that's really just about the size as the rest of the, just about the same size as the rest of them. So you can just rip off the chunks where your biscuit cutter won't quite fit and have a biscuit. It'll be funny shaped, but you can have fun guessing what it looks like a shark. As for the rest of these other pieces, they're kind of too small to make it as a biscuit. So we're going to pick them all up and put them in with our second blob of dough to be worked with later. Now we're going to put these biscuits in a preheated 425 degree oven for the amount of time that I've forgotten.
All right, now for the final addition to our breakfast for dinner is going to be fried eggs. Now I've melted about a tablespoon of butter in my nonstick pan, and I'm going to crack the egg. Now I'm not going to do it on the side of the pan because that'll shove eggshell into the egg and makes it hard to get. So I'm going to crack it open on a flat surface. So. And then just, let's see if I can make it work. Yeah, of course not. Okay, so I'm going to make these about 2 at a time. There we go. Now I'm going to use a utensil that's safe for nonstick pans. And I like my eggs over medium and over easy. So it's kind of cool to watch this. If you've made fried eggs before, you probably know how to do it as good as I do. But you kind of watch the white start to turn white as it cooks. And what I don't want is a hard cooked yolk. I like mine to be a little bit runny still. Now, I suppose I should put a disclaimer in there that you want to cook them thoroughly because eggs these days especially can have salmonella in them. So you really should cook them thoroughly. So what I'm going to do is let these, you can see it's a good non-stick pan because as I lift it, then the egg starts sliding in the pan. I like to see that. So we're just going to let the white, we're going to let the white cook up, and then we're going to flip them. Maybe I'll try to do it like I'm a chef. See how much of a mess I can make. Alright, now the white is I think done enough to ready to flip the egg. Now I'm going to try to flip it like they do on TV. I wouldn't try this, but look at how slippery that is. See how the eggs are sliding around? Okay, I'm kind of scared. But here goes. I'm still coughing from the smoke from earlier. Oh gosh. All right, here goes. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, I did it. I did it. Did you see that? All right, so I'm just going to let that cook on the other side for a few moments, and then we're going to try out our breakfast. All right. Well, here we have our fried eggs, our sausage, our biscuits and gravy, and hashed browns. I've got my daughter Jennamarie and my son Jack here, and we're going to try it since we were the cooks here. So let's give it a try, guys, and see what we think. I'm going to try this part first.
I like biscuits the most. And sausage.
I knew this sausage or the gravy was going to be good. I'm going to try these eggs too. Eggs are done really well, or nicely. Better try some of these
Try a little bit of potatoes.
potatoes.
Really, the best part's the sausage and the biscuits, but
Yeah, I agree. Taste the onions and the potatoes. It all goes good together. Just need some coffee, because we all know how well coffee and food goes together. Well, folks, during this time of uncertainty, take some time to spend with your family. You know, cook together, spend time and love one another, and you know, we'll get through this. All right, what do you think? We're having fun anyway. All right,
just find
well,
somebody that you like to have fun with.
that's right. What else were we going to tell people? Oh yeah, don't hoard things, because by gum, it's hard to go to the store and find stuff. So don't hoard your supplies. Leave some for everybody else.
Just get as much as you need and let somebody else get what they need to get
Yeah.
by.
Yeah, and then together we'll make it through our current health issues. All right. Well, I hope that you'll realize that having breakfast for dinner will be good enough to make you get out the Is this thing on still?
Yeah.
Okay. We going? All right.
Times as we need to.